for Coffee Connections, or I can't even get a name right. Coffee Conversations, I should say. And we're in for a great conversation today. Danielle Hill is one of my favorite humans that I have the good fortune of knowing. She has been a mentor, whether she knows it or not, and someone I turn to anytime I need something. I've learned so much from her, and I know you all will too. Welcome, Danielle.
Hi, Stacy. Good to see you.
Good to see you. You have quite the impressive bio, but the ADD in me hates to start with reading your bio. So instead, we do things a little bit different and we talk about your first job and your current job. So, what was your first job, Danielle? I don't think I know that.
Yeah, well, I have two. So my very first job as a teenager was working in the strawberry fields. So I know down the street. So I grew up on a farm. Yeah, grew up on a farm, and down the street there was a U-Pick strawberry farm, and I got to be a cashier there. So very prestigious. At 13, I think, is when I started.
That does not surprise me that you had a job at 13. And this is why I love this question, because I always learn fun facts like you worked at a strawberry farm. Okay. And then what was the other one?
Well, so my first real job was at Progressive Insurance. And I like to share the story because it is kind of attuned to my personality, which you'll appreciate. But I had just left college or finished college, had traveled a little bit and didn't want to live in Washington anymore. And I had a friend that wanted to move to Southern California, to San Diego. And I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. Like, I'll go for 6 months and then move back home. Like, why not? I'm 22, like the world's my oyster kind of thing. And back in 2003, I went on monster.com with a little bit better than dial-up and found a job for Progressive Insurance as a claims adjuster, paying $42,000. And I was like, I'll be rich. Like, I can retire. Like, life is good.
That's awesome.
So I printed out my little monster.com or whatever job description, flew to San Diego, landed, called them and said, Kathy at the time was the lady at the front desk. I said, I'm here in town and I'm really interested in this job. I'd like to come in. And she said, oh, well, maybe you need to come like do the test. And I said, oh, sure. Yeah. Schedule me for that. So I went in, took the test, passed the test. And then she said, all right, someone will reach out to interview you. And old 22-year-old Danielle was like, I actually have time now. If you want to interview me now. And so I did. And meanwhile, 2 days later, I fly home to Washington and land and have someone calling me, offering me the job. So that energy and confidence of a 22-year-old, I like to channel now.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes, and it doesn't surprise me given what I've seen you accomplish. And currently you're up to doing some cool things and having some bold conversations as well.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah. So now I co-founded a company about 3 years ago with some dear friends, Upward Financial or Upwardli. And I'm the COO there, and it's been great. So we think of us, Stripe, like if you were to go and sign up with Stripe, we are the Stripe of credit building. So if you had a company and you wanted to roll out a credit builder, a credit card, anything like that, we provide the infrastructure and allow you to spin that up in, weeks rather than years of having to work with the banking partner and all that good stuff. And the cool thing about what we are focused on is really people that are new to credit. So it could be new to the country, or it could be people that work like gig jobs. We partner with, folks that are paying out tips, nannies that are getting paid through like a dashboard. Instead of getting paid that way, they can have it loaded onto a card so they can swipe wherever. So it's pretty cool.
That is, so I love that you're in fintech, but you've had such an interesting career path. I definitely want to dig in more to what you're doing currently, but I also think it's fun to back up and sort of see your path. I mean, what's so fascinating to me is you've had such a big career, both in corporations as well as startups, and all different types and industries. So it sounds like you start with insurance at 22 in San Diego, and what a great place to live, by the way, at 22.
It was a lot of fun.
And you've gone on, and what are some of the other things you've done, and how have you found that path?
Yeah. I've done a lot, and I will say, I remember distinctly at 18. So I played sports growing up. I played college basketball for my first year. And I remember distinctly at 18, 19 saying to my parents, hey, I don't want to be known for just one thing. And At that time it was like, oh, you're a basketball player. And I was like, I love basketball and it's fun, but that's not just me. Like I have all these other things I'm interested in and want to be known for. And I think that's kind of helped me through my career in just saying like, hey, I don't need to just be an insurance professional. Like, why wouldn't I go try technology? Like,
Right.
why wouldn't I go do fintech? Why wouldn't I go work at the Riveter, which is like total kind of like a very sharp turn for my career. But the common thread was always around, am I aligned with the mission of the company and what they're trying to accomplish? And do I think that I can add value from a leadership perspective, helping people grow, helping to organize how a company translates a vision into actually getting the execution done alongside of it. So I think that's been the common thread throughout.
Well, and how has it been for you going from a corporate environment to a startup environment like the Riveter, and then now, being co-founder of a fintech company? I would imagine each one has some nuances to them.
Yeah. Honestly, coming back to fintech has actually been more comfortable for me because I was at Amazon and then at Remitly. And Remitly is this amazing international money transfer company.
Okay.
I was one of the first 25 employees there. So I really got to see how a very early stage startup worked. And when I left, I think my team itself was like over 500 people in 3 countries. And Remitly's gone on to do wonderful things. They went public a couple years ago at $7 billion. And like the amount of things I learned there was just like, I could spend hours talking just about that. But it was really a phenomenal time. After I left, that's when I went to the Riveter. And I left there for a lot of reasons, primarily because I was jet lagged and tired and had been at a startup. Like you go through the grind and,
Yeah.
Right? And so I took some time off and then met Amy, and I just fell in love with what she was trying to accomplish. And similar to what you were doing with Rise, like it's just such a amazing thing when you can build connection and belonging.
Absolutely. And you came into Denver. Well, you obviously came into many markets and really helped to expand Riveter. And I was just in awe of the growth and the way you did it. And you're just such a great collaborator, and you really walk the walk. Very few people walk the walk. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And you absolutely did. And I'm sure that translates into your newer startup, which I definitely want to dig in.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for it? Sounds like you had the experience at your prior company, but I'm curious what the impetus to starting this company was.
Yeah. I think when I was at Remitly, so 2 of my co-founders also worked at Remitly with me.
Oh, that's fun.
And yeah. So it's fun to have us back together and working on this, solving this problem. But one of the things that we saw was that when people were coming to the US, one of their first financial transactions was sending money back home.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so when my role at Remitly at the time was how do we streamline and make that an easy sign up process for our customers?
Sure.
And because I oversaw customer service, I heard people say all the things that were frustrating to them. And a big thing was that they couldn't get access to credit.
Yeah.
And they really were struggling to get their like foundation in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And when you peel the onion back, it's not just people new to the country, it's people that are 18 to 25. Now it's people that are 28 to 35 that were raised by parents that said, stay away from credit. And they're wanting to buy a car or a home. And they're like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we just really thought, why can't we build a product that allows people to get that first credit line or first credit score? And it really unlocks their access to like this greater financial future. And so it's been a lot of fun to figure out how to do that and solve it. And there's a lot of compliance and like, I mean, I can nerd out on that stuff if you want.
Well, I think it's so interesting because I think there's a lot of teens and young adults who've been told that, getting a credit card or doing this or doing that is so bad and don't do it. And then here we are being, they're young adults and they can't buy a home. Their credit is not great. And so I think that's a really interesting thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about as a unintended consequence of, I think it's an overcorrection. I remember when I was in college in 96 to 2000, I'm dating myself, but everyone in like the commons area were trying to get you to sign up for a credit card to get a t-shirt. And I think that, a lot of people made some bad choices because of that. But I wonder if there's been this like overcorrection of like, don't do that. Credit cards are bad. And now it's having this horrible unintended consequence that you're solving, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah. Working on it. Yeah. I think, I think what I've learned and observed is that your circle, it's probably like all things. Your circle of influence really influences how you think about credit, how you think about financial health. And if you were raised in a family that either wasn't responsible with credit or didn't understand how to utilize credit to benefit you, then you yourself are going to struggle with that as well. And there's so many things that we can do as a country to support like healthy financial practices and behaviors that, it's just figuring out how do you do that in a way that makes it easy for the end consumer, because it's confusing. Like, it's confusing. I'm 43 and I'm like, wait, what should I be doing? And so you hear something from a friend and you think, oh, should I be doing that too? And it's so like individual and like you're specific to you.
Yeah. And the values, right? Like, I think money is so connected to your values, and there's so much insecurity and vulnerability. So I really appreciate that you're doing something that's hopefully changing the narrative and making it more approachable. And so you were saying something like this, it's a big thing to tackle, I would imagine. And so what have been some of the biggest challenges in getting this amazing company off the ground?
Oh man, that's a great question.
You're like, how much time do you have to see?
I know, seriously, fundraising has been a challenge only because the market has changed a lot for startups, a lot for consumer fintechs, a lot for fintechs in general. So that was a big challenge. And like, we got a lot of no's. I've been told no more times in the last 2 years than probably my entire life, which is, I guess, a good thing.
But I appreciate you saying that, because like on the surface, like I know that your first raise, I feel like you raised maybe 2 million, maybe, I don't want to screw it up. And then more recently over 3. So, from the outside looking in, people are going to say, wow, you're killing it. Look how much money you've already raised. And I think it's really helpful to hear that you've heard more no's than any ever before.
Yeah. And I've had to dye my hair more often, like all of the things. Like, it is not for the faint heart to do fundraising. It's really tough. And I think it is, you just have to get comfortable hearing no. My mindset has been like, no is an opportunity to go at it again. Like, and just keep trying and try something different, and you'll find your people. You'll find the person that believes in you. We found a great lead investor in Catherine Williams out of Dundee, and like, it's been huge for us. And just to have if you find the right person, it all makes sense and it clicks, and then you're in good shape.
Yeah. What do you do to keep going when you hear the no's? I think a lot of founders, after hearing let's say 100 no's, I don't know how many you've heard, but after hearing 100 no's, some founders would be like, maybe I'm just not meant to do this, or maybe I should throw in the towel. I mean, it can definitely be discouraging, I would imagine. Yeah. So how do you keep going? What I think
I throwing in the towel. No, like I bet we're over 100 no's for sure.
Okay. That's helpful to know. Yeah.
It is hard. It's hard. I think like I've done everything from like crying to having my co-founder and I do a call where we're just like, explicitives and like just really upset about things, to like taking a walk, talking to people that like I respect and support, and just, I think it's really who you surround yourself with to just understand, like, there's a reason not everyone goes and starts a business. There's a reason not everyone is a VC-backed company. And you just have to figure out, how do you keep yourself in that mindset of like, it's going to be hard and I'm going to be told no. And no doesn't mean they don't like me. It just means they just, for whatever reason, it's not a fit for them, and go find the person that thinks it is a fit,
Yeah. And especially in the fintech industry, I would imagine there, to your point earlier, the compliance, and there's so many things you have to learn. Like, what have been your biggest takeaways or lessons learned?
Oh, from fintech. And so I would say with fintech and compliance, what happened is there was a ton of excitement around fintech and excitement around banking as a service and like all of these things. And I think that people invested early a lot of money. So there's two things that happened. A lot of money went into fintech. A lot of those companies haven't had the exits that were expected. And so that like changes like appetite for investing in that particular type of industry.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing I think that happened is just in general, the market has shifted. And so money is expensive, and you can get good rates on interest, and like how LPs are deploying money into funds so that the funds can then go deploy capital to startups has changed. And so all of those factors kind of have a trickle down to the end founder, which then that means we have to have more conversations. The other thing I think too is I talk to founders all the time about, you need to understand, do you want to be a VC backed business, or do you want to be an awesome, successful business, but you only want to be $100 million company, which is freaking amazing. And you should do that, but you should not go raise money from a venture capitalist. That's just not the right model. And you're going to be super frustrated. Go bootstrap, get a small business loan, all of those other things you can do.
I think it's such a good question. And actually, I was talking to a founder today, and we were having that exact conversation, because I think the narrative so often is venture, venture, venture. And there is definitely a time and a place, and you guys have done a great job with it. But I agree with you. It's not a one size fits all. So I appreciate that you're talking. That's the other thing that stands out about you. Not only are you building this business with your team and really killing it, is that you're always giving back, and you're always helping women and I'm sure men too. How do you find time and manage all the things?
Yeah, I just laugh. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I think that I have made it actually, if you were to look at my vision board, you would see this year I said I wanted to make sure I prioritized mentoring again, because it's really important to me. I feel like I've been blessed and lucky to have the opportunities that I've had, and have good people surrounding me that have taught me the good, the bad, the ugly, and like really been like super transparent and like stern with me when I needed that, or kick in the pants when I needed that too.
Yeah.
And like, that's something that I enjoy doing. So I wanted to prioritize it. And I am more selective now than I was before with who I would like mentor or work with. But I think I always make time to like have at least a couple hours a week to check in on people, or, have a session or whatever. So I probably mentor. I am an advisor for 2 companies out of Dallas right now.
Oh, I saw that on your LinkedIn. Yeah, those are really cool companies. Can you share a little about them and how you show up as an advisor?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you should probably ask them how I show up as an advisor. To be fair.
I'm sure they love you, Danielle. I'm sure they love you.
Yeah, whatever. Well, the one is called Fetfully. The founder there is Gigi McDowell. She's freaking amazing. If you don't know her and you're listening, or you do listen to this, you should look her up. She runs a AI-driven events platform.
Oh, wow.
So it's super cool. She has come up with this technology that helps you to, mostly around wedding planning, but helps you to think about the big event in your life. You put in all these things that are of interest to you, and then it spits out, here are the best planners that you can utilize, or here's kind of your plan on how to move forward. It's kind of like the knot merged with AI. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a super cool technology. And Gigi is a first-time founder and amazing. And I met her in Austin at South by Southwest, and she raised her hand. Arlen Hamilton was speaking at one of the Riveter events, and she raised her hand and asked a question. And I was like, I want to go talk to her. And so that was in 2018.
Okay.
Since 2018, she and I have worked together, and I just saw her not too long ago and talked to her probably, I don't know, every other week or so.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I show up with her, it can range from like just someone when you heard a no and you just need someone to like talk to, or like, all the way through to like looking at her financial model and helping her think about like, how does she pitch her business for her fundraise, and like all of that good stuff. The other one out of Dallas is Boss Woman Media. Well, it's Marty McDonald. She's awesome. She has 3 businesses, Boss Woman Media, which is like the Riveter, but primarily focused toward brown and Black women. And she's done a lot of really cool stuff with that. And she started a new line called Elle Olivia, which is a little girl's clothing line in Target and Nordstrom's now. So
that's
yeah, so she's doing some really cool, amazing things. And she's just really changing the narrative around how you think about connection she does startup, but it's mostly small business, women in small business. So it's really been cool. And then I mentor for Techstars. I could go on and on.
I think it's incredible. Well, it makes me think of, one of the biggest predictors to success in business is social capital, but women and minorities have access to less and different social capital. And something I feel like you're really good at is building social capital. And, I watched you come into Denver, a market that, was newer to you, and just the way in which you really broke into this market and really had success. So for someone out there that maybe doesn't have your level of social capital, because most people don't, what advice would you give them when thinking about breaking into a new market or trying to build your social capital? Because that's something you're really good at.
Oh, thanks. I don't know that I would say that about myself, but thank you.
From the outside looking in, I mean, anytime I have a problem or I call you, you're like, well, you need to talk to this person and this person and this person. And they're always willing to talk to me because I know Danielle Hill, right? Like, so from an outside looking in, I think your social capital is quite high.
Well, I would say the same about you. So we can trade. You should trade some secrets too. Honestly, okay. So going into Denver, like I remember meeting you, and I remember making my itinerary going in, and was looking at like, who should I try to connect with and reach out to? And I remember meeting you in the coffee shop below, right? And eyes wasn't open yet. And it was great. It was so cool to meet you. And I think my mentality has always been to just put myself out there. Yeah. And it's not going to be comfortable. In fact, I tend to be more on the was it introvert, extrovert? Like, yeah. I'm not shy once I know you. You're like, I'm not shy. Yeah. And I can do stuff like this, but I also can be super awkward and want downtime and just, I don't know. I'm weird. Like, I don't,
Also, I notice about you, and I'm usually the one listening and connecting. So when I met you, I was just, instead of you coming in and pitching and telling me all about the Riveter, you were such a soft landing place for me. And you were such a great listener. You're an incredible listener. And I wonder if that's a piece of the puzzle to your social capital. People think when they're trying to build their capital, they need to go in and pitch themselves and tell people like why you should like me and what I'm doing. But I found that you did really the opposite.
Oh, yeah. I would say that's probably from growing up.
Okay.
On my mom's side, my grandma and my grandpa, anytime we visited, they had this big, I think it was oak pine table. And they would be sitting around and having these like in-depth, deep conversations. But the thing was, they could argue. It could be a big argument, but everyone got their own chance to talk, and everyone else was like kind of by default had to listen. Yeah. And I think that just taught me, like, you learn so much more by listening to the person you're talking to and understanding like, what is it they're really looking for? Or how can I actually help them? And my mindset has always just been, I remember meeting you. How can I help Stacy? Like, if I help you, then that helps me in the long run, because now you and I are friends, and we've been friends since 2019. I
was thinking about that. I think it was 18 or 19. Yeah. And you have been there for me countless times. I can think of a recent time that you were my person to pick me back off the floor as I'm sobbing to you, and teaching the tough lessons, but also doing it with love. And I think that balance is so special and important. And so when you think about your current company and all the amazing things you guys are up to, and you just and what are you most excited for?
That is a great question. We have a lot. So we launched our B2B product in December, or I guess late November, actually. So we have about 10 partners that we're launching over the next 2 quarters. And we're launching our second product this summer. So we are busy. And just my role kind of is shifting from really being in the weeds to now, like, okay, now I need to continue to sell and like make connections and do the things that I love. So I'm excited about that, and start to hire and scale a team. So it's really like, we're in it.
Now, if somebody's listening and they're thinking, ooh, this is a really cool company, I want to learn more. Like, who are you most serving, or who needs to know about this that maybe doesn't know about it yet?
Yeah. There's probably a lot of people that don't know about it.
I'm like, let's tell the world.
I would say the people that are going to benefit is if you have a company today and you have been thinking about offering a card product or a credit financial product, and you don't want to own that yourself. You don't want to do the compliance around it. You don't want to go partner with a bank, like all of that. Coming to partner with us would be, we would want to work with you.
Yeah.
I also think that if you have a current program, a debit card program or something, and it's struggling, maybe you're not getting the revenue you thought you would from that program. We've moved from a debit card to more of the credit world. And there's a significant jump in like how the economics with both of those. And so I would also say, like, come talk to us. The other thing would be, if you're serving anyone that's new to credit or generally underserved in the financial world, we are super open to being creative.
Yeah.
Coming down the line is like rent reporting, utility reporting into the credit bureaus, like all of these things with the idea of how do we give someone a fast on-ramp into the credit system. So
I love that. And so important because credit impacts so many things and people don't even realize it. And I think some people who grew up with parents who valued it take for granted how impactful it is. So I love that you're solving it for those that maybe didn't have that. And so I watch you and I think you're such an inspiration. And I know so many women you've inspired and motivated. And so, the question, the signature question is, if you, what phrase would you put on the coffee cup for a woman to keep her going? Well, not just a woman, for somebody to keep them going and be inspired every day.
Oh, I think I would pick be bold. To channel my like 22-year-old that was not scared to like just walk in and be like, this is what I want. And let's figure out how to make it happen.
I love that. And, I'm curious because you were bold. I think people think to be bold that you never get nervous. I'm curious if you get. Okay. That's what I was curious about because I think people hear these stories. They're like, well, no, I'm too scared or I'm too nervous. And it's like, no, you can be bold and scared.
I will. I know we're wrapping here, but one last thing. I met a wonderful woman in Denver, Jamie. What is her last name? She's amazing. And I can see her face. But Jamie, at one of your events, I was on stage and she was asking me about, we're talking about that. And because I get so nervous, I'm nervous now. Like, it's just, that's the way. But I said, when I'm really nervous and I'm presenting or speaking, I run through this thing in my head where I'm like, red fish, green fish, blue fish, yellow fish, and just something to distract my mind and they calm me down and say, you know what? Not everyone's going to like me, but if I find my people, they're going to support me. Even if I show up here and they're like, what are you talking about, Danielle? Like, it doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and,
I love
the
that.
rest of
Yeah, because I think be bold is such an important line, but I also wanted people to hear that you can be bold and be terrified at the same time.
You should be.
Yes. And I'm definitely stealing your trick of red fish, blue fish. I love that. Well, if somebody wants to learn more about you or your company, where would you have them follow?
Yeah. So I'm not a big social media person.
I'm so thankful you said yes to this.
I know. I was like, all right, for Stacey, I'll do it. I do actually have it on my vision board to speak at 2 events this year.
Okay. So let's put it out there. Anyone listening who's a phenomenal speaker, I've seen her speak on stage. And so she is definitely amazing. So let's get you at least 2. Okay.
LinkedIn's probably best, or Danielle at upwardli.com. And if you want to know more about the company, you can email me as well. And, or you can reach out to Stacey. She'll connect us. Like,
well, you're changing lives. That's the thing. You're not only a startup queen, but you also change lives as you go. And I think you're amazing. So thank you for taking the time and squeezing us in and doing something new. It was great chatting with you. And I'm sure we'll be watching you do all sorts of amazing things.
We'll do it together.
All right. Thank you.